The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight's guest, one more time, is Vincent Lyn. Welcome to the show.
Welcome again.
Okay, the first show we kind of focused in on your martial arts and your acting and your music. And now we're going to talk about one of your new focuses in your life.
Yeah.
And that's really saving children.
Correct.
And maybe you could talk about it, give us a little insight of how you got involved in, what is it called? We Can Save Children?
Yeah, the Recovery or Rescue and Recovery Project is under the website wecansavechildren.com.
Okay.
This actually happened for me 3 years ago. I was doing close protection for some philanthropists, and we were traveling to West Africa and East Africa, primarily Ghana and Kenya. And these philanthropists, who I can't name of course, building infrastructure in Africa. When I say infrastructure, schools for children, shelters, I mean, the things that for us is, running water, toilets, this stuff. And so it just so happened on one trip to Ghana with this philanthropist, we went to a shelter that had been built recently. And there I laid my eyes on 24 children who had just been rescued from child slavery. And they were between the ages of around 4 to 15. So my job obviously was close protection. But when I saw these children, this emotionless look, this kind of 1,000-yard stare, black eyes, like a shark. I mean, I started to get teared up, and I had to look away and pull myself together, obviously knowing the job that I was supposed to be doing at that time. And we couldn't stay too long because we were told by the head of this organization that the children thought we were white slavists coming to buy them. So we could only stay for a short time. And from that moment, I realized, okay, my life had changed. So I wanted to know how I could get involved, and not just get involved, helping out, sending clothes, sending school supplies. I really wanted to, boots on the ground, get involved. And so over a period of time, I got to know the James Kofi Annan, who heads up the organization, Challenging Heights, which is the largest organization saving children from trafficking in West Africa. And he was a former child slave himself of 7 years and escaped from slavery. And his life story it's amazing. It makes us all humble. When people talk about, oh, I have it so tough, you want to hear about his life, oh my goodness. But what he was able to do with it, So getting to know him, knowing more about the organization, and getting to know more about child trafficking and just how immense it is. It's like peeling back layers on an onion. You can't believe it. And you can't believe that governments look the other way, and it's happening not in these countries where we immediately think, oh, Africa or Southeast Asia. It's happening here too.
And
yeah.
I mean, are governments looking the other way, or are governments getting, is it looking the other way?
It's a combination.
Yeah.
It's a combination. It depends on what country we're talking about.
Right.
Just as an example, all of us here have eaten Nestle's chocolate at one time or another. Mars Bar, Milky Way. It's not great chocolate, but we've eaten it. And it's not really chocolate. It's like maybe 1% cocoa and 99% sugar.
Right.
But the biggest producers in the world of cacao, the actual nut, is Ivory Coast in West Africa. So recently they made a kind of a deal with America, and that was because America is the biggest importer of chocolate in the world. The Ivory Coast wanted more money per pound, and they said, no, we're not giving you any more money. But we will buy more the same price, but we will buy more. So what does that mean? That means Ivory Coast now has to produce more in order to export more to the United States. And guess what? If they have to produce more, that means they need more child slaves. So it's a cycle that everybody knows about, you know, whether it's buying clothing from, you know, Five and Dime, Walmart. It's all made in sweatshops in India, Bangladesh, China, and guess who's making it? Children.
And, you know, I guess even you know, it's the last thing in the world I think about because, you know, we think...
Who thinks about this?
You know, you think, I mean, you know, in the United States, supposedly the slaves were freed and blah, blah, blah. But it's, but also, I mean, you know, every now and then you'll see on TV sex trafficking and all this other stuff. I mean, but I don't know, we're so insulated. I guess we're fed information
well, of
by
course.
media.
I mean, look at our news.
That's what I'm talking,
it's
all
always
garbage.
very, what's in the news right now, you know? Of course it's, yeah.
And the real stuff is this. I mean,
yeah,
how big is this? How big is this
Well,
problem?
we're talking, let's see, slavery was abolished 150 years ago. Supposedly Abraham Lincoln said no more. But child slavery is at the highest ever it's been in 150 years.
Wow.
So if we're talking about, most people think of child slavery and they immediately go to the sex trade.
Right.
But that's only a minute number. I mean, it's still a huge number.
Right.
We're talking maybe 4.5 million worldwide. Both boys and girls in the sex trade. But child-like hard slave labor, where children are tortured, some are disfigured, we're talking upwards of 35 million.
And
that's at a low number, I think.
And what, I mean, what's their, their life expectancy?
Well,
kids?
if they remain a child slave, this is another thing, the percentage is 1% get saved. 1% get rescued. 1.
God.
So the life expectancy is 0.
And there's always new kids that they, and
Of course.
and what do they, how do they get, do they purchase these kids or do they snatch these kids?
I'll give you 3 guesses for how much you think they get bought for.
$100.
Too high.
Really?
Yeah. $20.
$20 for a kid.
$20 for a child.
And do they feed these kids, or how I mean, if they're...
Well, they need them to work, but they work like, you know...
How many hours?
19 hours.
And starting at
Sleep
4
on the
years
dirt,
old?
And they, of course, they get fed subsistence or substandard food just so that they can work. So they're not going to live very long.
So how many people are like you out there who are actually actively, I'm saying, how big a force is there trying to save these kids?
It's nowhere near enough. Yeah, you know, it's an interesting, and I've been told this, you know, because I'm specifically working in West Africa. So it's strange because people say, God, you know, you're a white man in a black man's world. I don't understand that. You know, why don't they take care of their own problem? Well, not enough manpower. I mean, manpower is put in other areas that seem to be more important, though I can't imagine what would be more important than saving children's lives. But it's very complicated, and it's very complicated depending on the country and culture. Yeah.
And we talked earlier, I mean, because you have a history of being a musician and an action star and in movies and things like this, and how much more meaningful.
Rewarding.
Rewarding.
Nothing comes close for me, yeah, because you're saving actual human lives, and you're saving children's lives.
And have you seen the faces of the people that you've helped save?
Yes, of course.
And what is that?
Well, you know, again, there's the balance of the children that you save and the ones you don't.
That's it.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of just how crazy this system is. I was in Ghana about 3 months ago, four months ago, and we were in a village in southern Ghana, fishing village, called Senya. And it's actually a town of 40,000, but it's the most heavily trafficked. So the traffickers come down from Lake Volta, which is the largest man-made reservoir in the world. It was actually built by US engineers in the 60s. And it does all the hydroelectric power for all the neighboring countries, you know, Nigeria, Burkina Faso. And so they come down and they just basically take whomever they want, drive them back up. So we had a raid in place, and the government knew about it. There was national news standing in the sidelines, security, police, Challenging Heights organization, the nurses, the therapists, all that. Everything was in place to go. So obviously that planning and money that it takes to plan that.
Right.
So it was all set to go. And at the 11th hour, the Ministry of Interior called James and said, you can't do it.
Oh my God.
So you're wondering, okay, wait a minute, what happened? Oh, we didn't know anything about it. Well, of course, that was untrue. And then we find out the real reason is because they're having elections this year, like we are,
right,
for the new prime minister. And so if we do save children, then it shows a complete lack that the government are not doing anything about it. So they're embarrassed. So instead, as we left the fishing village, I was walking with James, and we saw two girls, maybe 12, 13, sitting on a step, kind of raggedy looking. They were holding hands. And they knew they were going to be taken. And James looked to me and he says, they're going to be trafficked today. And I just, I was speechless. The only thing I could say, and we're just going to walk by them and we can't do anything about it. And we were told by the government, if we actually did anything, we'd be all arrested.
There it is.
How crazy is that?
And you being the martial artist, a strong guy and everything, and you can't, I mean, you can't even go help.
I mean, James was funny, you know, obviously he's seen this so much, so he just, it's the way the system is.
I mean, how could you go on?
And he just said something funny to me. He says, gosh, and I was really looking forward to seeing you like put some of these people out. It was cute, but still it was really frustrating and really upsetting. Yeah.
But there's, I mean, but you are helping others, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
And every life you save is a whole line of lives beyond that person. So I mean, you can't be discouraged. I mean, it's
no. I'm not discouraged. It's just the powers that be that could make a difference.
Right.
You know, they just
politics.
It's not on the importance list.
And I'm sure that happens in the United States too.
Oh boy, does it.
I mean, just.
Yeah.
And we need people. You know, you're the Bernie Sanders of this. You're shaking that tree.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. He's he was looking for his $27, which he got from. It's an amount that everyone could afford, and he got millions. So you know.
So what kind of support do you get from the United States government?
Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, not even verbal support. I'm talking about. If you're looking for money, I guess nothing. But
yeah, that comes from private donations.
Right. But you work with the UN, right? Yes,
but that's very recent. I mean, within this year.
And that's part of.
I'm working actually with two NGOs.
Right.
One is African Views, which deals with obviously West Africa.
Right.
Gentleman who heads up the NGO, Wali Idris, he's actually from Nigeria.
Yes.
And another one is from the Middle East. And actually I was also, but that was in February, I was at the Syrian refugee camps in Asrak, and that was another whole crazy situation, yeah.
And now I guess the world is turning their backs on all the refugees.
Well, when have you heard about it lately?
That's it. No, I mean, we're...
Meanwhile, 10 million people are displaced.
Yeah, well, Trump is in the news now, so that's why...
That's all that matters,
that's all that matters.
Seems, yeah.
So, how do people join this fight? I mean, is this something to...
Well, I mean, right now, when I came back from Ghana, after seeing this raid that didn't happen, I said, you know what, that's it. I'm going to just find a way to figure this out myself, you know. And so I started my own like rescue recovery project. But obviously it's in coordination with Challenging Heights, of course. And so to get the funding to go back in August is when I want to.
Right.
And best case scenario, we can save 15 to 20 children. Yeah, so that's, and you know,
but
so
you
that's
know
what
what,
I'm
again,
doing.
it might be a little number, but for those
It's
15
a
or
tiny
20,
number,
but for those 15 or 20 children,
you can change their
you can
world,
change the world
and everything.
Can we show? I know you brought up. Is it
Yes,
a
I did.
PSA? Is it?
It's a PSA.
It's
Yeah,
a PSA,
yeah, and it's
a
powerful,
very
so-
moving one.
Yes.
So I'd like to share this PSA with the audience. Okay, so enjoy.
I've got a tough subject to talk to you about, and there's no easy way to say it. So I'm going to tell you the hard truth right now. Children all over the world are being sold into slavery. I know, it's hard to really take this in. So let me say it like this. Imagine yourself for a moment, abducted from your life today, literally taken away from your office, on your way home, while you sleep, taken away from your life. You're taken to a place far, far away, forced to work 19 hours. You're forced to sleep on the ground, under the constant threat of torture and possible disfigurement. You, right now, taken away. These are real people, children, innocent children, taken every single day. And these lives are no less valuable than yours or mine. And yet they are bought and sold for as little as $20. It's $20 per child. It's $20 per life. But I have something real that we can do together. Right now, right here, today. Challenging Heights is an organization whose aim is to free child slaves. We are going into the slavery camps and saving children. And once they've been saved, they are immediately taken to a shelter, a safe house, where they receive food, shelter, education, and psychological care. These children are given back their lives. I'm going on these missions to help save children, and we need your support. For as little as $30, you can help us save a life. For these innocent children's lives. Please help me save them today. To help save children, go to wecansavechildren.com and pledge your support today. Even $30 can help save a life. Help us today, and from all of us at Challenging Heights, thank you.
That was emotional.
Take a break. Take a breath.
It's too much. It's too
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I mean, being a father and seeing those
course.
children, it's just it's
Heavy.
too deep,
Yeah.
and it's real. And
That's the thing. It's real. It's not. You know. It's not a movie. No.
and it's. I mean, you're doing a wonderful thing. I know you feel like it's too little that you could do as one human being, but I guess.
Yeah.
If a movement happens, maybe
There you
something
go.
can happen.
Yeah,
You know,
and
someone's got to
this,
start it.
This takes time.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen overnight because it's been going on for so long,
Right.
and it will continue. I mean, it's not something that can be eradicated, but surely we can, you know, quell it and soften the blow a little. Yeah.
Is this and it seems it's not even like organized crime. It's something beyond organized crime. I mean, it seems
Well, that's the people ask me, isn't there like some guy at the top? And I said, no, this isn't like, you know, the cocaine. There's no Pablo Escobar sitting on the top of the mountain.
Right.
This is not centralized like this. This is just pockets, but there's so many pockets. This is the thing, and it's interesting because you wonder from the trafficker's mental outlook on how does he feel? How can he do this kind of evil? For us, this is pure evil.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Don't ask me, you know, what I really feel, but yeah. So, but they in a kind of warped sense. Ghana has one of the largest fishing industries in West Africa. Yeah. So Lake Volta, which is, you know, as I said, the largest man-made lake. So the fishing on there is immense for many countries, you know, in West Africa. So the net costs $200 to make, which they dredge. And the nets get caught, so they need small children, because they have small hands, to go down and untangle the nets. Even for a good diver with equipment on, because you can't see anything, it would require skill. How can you throw a 5-year-old overboard and expect them to untangle? So most of them don't come up. They just drown. So in their warped sense, well, a child's worth $20.
That's worth $200.
My net is $200.
Right.
That's how they ration it.
It's amazing. It's just a crazy world.
It baffles the norm in us. You know.
I mean, you look at like Hitler's Germany. It's the same. I mean, the same thing. It's
of course. There's always a rationale, no matter what.
Right. And
yeah.
I mean, how do you change? I mean, I know it's an uphill battle for you.
Yeah.
But it's not going to stop you from doing it.
No, not at all. It's not going to stop me at all. I mean, I'm actually I have gotten more involved every day, yeah, in terms of, and incensed, in terms of more focused to get this done, get this funded, and continue the fight.
And the UN is behind you in these kind of efforts, or they?
Well, this is, you know, the UN has ultimate power, but at the same time, and they do incredible things, but then
I can understand it.
That's frustrating too.
Right. I mean, because it's so, I guess it's so in these areas that it's like, how do you change the thinking?
Well, that's it. You know, you could say, well, it's through education, but then, you know, one of the kind of foundations of why this thing is so enormous is because of poverty.
Right. It's economics. The whole thing is economics.
It comes back to economics again.
Right.
And you say, well, how can't we change that? You know, it's like.
Right. And then we go to the 1% of the United States.
Exactly.
That have billions and trillions of dollars, and
comes back again. Yeah.
And you have all these people who can't. You know, you have these poor kids. You know, working for nothing. It's. But it's. You know, then I go back to the Bernie Sanders scenario. I mean, we have to change the world, and
we do.
And that's what you're doing right now. You're part of that.
Yeah, one step. And there's I'm working with an incredible group of. It's called Our Collective. Incredible group of artisans, activists, artists, and we are collectively making immense changes. And we've been together maybe since the beginning of this year, but already the things that we are doing and going to do are quite amazing. Yeah. So I'm really happy.
But the thing that we're battling, I mean, that you're battling, is time, because every day that there's kids still, I mean, it's like.
Well, there you go. In fact, in the PSA,
yes,
it was a photo that I took as a little African boy. He's sitting on a step,
right,
and I stood there watching him for about 5 minutes, and he just had this stare, and he was no shirt, no shoes on, his raggedy pants, no underwear, and he was scratching and itching, so he had some kind of, you know, I don't know, skin disorder, rash, or whatever it might be. You know, you could tell he was undernourished, you know, or, you know, there was malnutrition there, but he was looking and I just took the photo quickly, you know, because you don't want to be around going snapping photos like this, and I just took it, and I just, God, I wondered what he was thinking. And it's very doubtful he's still there.
That's it.
And he's beautiful looking, beautiful boy.
Right.
Sometimes he would smile, but then he would just look away, you know.
And then you could think of your son.
Yeah.
And then you think of
anybody.
And you think of anyone.
It doesn't matter, you know, black, brown, yellow, pink, blue.
Human.
We're going to get past all this foolishness of race and color and all this crazy
But, and also the fact that children aren't worth anything. I mean, to me, it
doesn't matter.
What kind
There's
of
a
life is
child.
this?
Yes, of course.
It's the future of the world, right?
It's the future of the world.
And,
Yeah.
we're just letting it, I guess the United States is just letting it slip away. If we're supposed to be the leaders of the world, maybe Hillary could do something about that. I hope.
I hope so.
Maybe you can convince Hillary.
Oh goodness, that would be some. Yeah, I could have a definitely one-on-one with her. I would love to.
That would be. I think. I mean, why not? I mean, you're in a place, I guess, working with you.
Let's make sure she wins first.
Oh, that's true. Because God forbid if she doesn't.
Yeah, then I'm moving to Amsterdam.
That's it. So, how big a team? How big a team do you work with? You know, your artisans and.
There is. I think there's 18 of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And
we all have amazing, diverse backgrounds.
And they also have their own little, like a diaspora. You know, they have their own group of people that they are trying to work with.
Yeah. I mean, the gentleman is a wonderful British-Chinese gentleman, Dr. Liang Ying, he's a PhD professor of astrophysics? I know there's physics in there somewhere.
He's a smart guy.
From University of Liverpool. Yeah, he's incredibly brilliant.
Right.
But we bring our own kind of special gifts. Yeah.
Right.
And we're doing amazing things.
And you're going to change the world. You know, I mean, one person at a time.
Well, yeah, one step. I don't know about one. Yeah, one person too. Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't just be sad. I should be hopeful about the future.
No, God, we have to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it if I felt that way. You know, sure, some days I get it's more frustration that it's not moving fast enough. I want it to move it quicker.
Just to go back to the other part of your life, when you play the music, do these things come through also? I mean, is this, because you're a concert pianist and all this stuff, but do you find that this has affected your artistic, your voice?
Well, it's interesting because I really mentally, after the last concert, my mom died, I needed to just put the music away.
Right.
But very recently, and I just was visiting my father in Fort Lauderdale, and I sat at the piano and wow, this beautiful music came to me, and I quickly recorded it, and then throughout the next day started kind of working on different sections, and yeah, there's a piece I've written that I really, really like. And I don't like everything that I write. Every now and again, it's something that I really love, but this I really, really love. So, answer to your question, yes.
That's awesome. So beauty can come out of sadness or hopefulness at the same time. That's it.
Of course, yeah. There's the balance. There's the yin and yang.
That's it. Wow. So this has been like the best. This has been the best interview I've ever had. And I've had 133 episodes, but there's only one thing left to say. Okay, that's a wrap. Good night, folks.